How can new designers negotiate better salaries and freelance rates without underselling themselves?
Would you like to go first?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you can.
I think this video is gonna have so many bloopers. Okay. Um, so first of all, I mean, in our previous video, we've already emphasized on why it's really necessary for you to build your portfolio and why it's really necessary for you to fortify your skills. And um, when you do this, you, in some sense, are also keeping yourself abreast of uh, industry standards and industry rates. And what generally happens is that if your portfolio is really good, I mean, I think this is true for any creative who needs to have a lot of confidence in themselves, is that you need to learn how to, let's say, ask for what you deserve, or for what you ask for, the money that your work deserves, especially when it comes to, let's say, like this is one experience I've had where someone approached me to make a logo for them once, and they were willing to pay me 1000 rupees for the logo. Sorry, they were willing to pay me at the most 2000 rupees for the logo, 2000, maybe 3000. And it didn't seem fair to me because I understand how much work goes into brand identity. And I quoted a much higher uh, commercial, which I'm not going to mention right now. But the point is, the person who worked with them before me created a logo for 1000 rupees, which I think is completely unfair, not only to the creative who's making the logo, but also to the person who's going to be working after you. So when you say, when you, I mean, and the logo that the person had created was really good. So what really upsets me more often than not is creatives not understanding the value of their work and them not um, demanding for a better pay more often than not. And I think one of the best ways to do it is to understand the budgetary allocation, or to understand what your client is willing to offer, and then trying to let them know what you offer in terms of, let's say, any project that you're going to be taking on, how you work, how you differ from, let's say, rather than how you differ, the conversation should be oriented towards what you bring to the table, and towards, let's say, um, giving them a very clear understanding that you have a very clear understanding of design and of what you're doing and of their brand, and how you can work at the intersection of these three. So how you fit in with their brand and what gaps their brand has, and how can your work basically help bridge those gaps. So I think, first of all, ask. Ask, and you shall receive. So, apart, like, I mean, of course, you can't have a shitty portfolio and a shitty work ethic and ask for thousands of dollars. That's not going to work out. But yes, I mean, if your portfolio is in place, if your work ethic is in place, if your integrity and your values are in place, I think you should be a bit more, I think, you should be a bit more confident in asserting your space. And I wouldn't say that you should always abide by industry standard rates. I personally feel that that is applicable for the industry. If someone wants to work with you, they have to uh, be willing to negotiate with you, and they
Wow.
have to be willing to see what you bring to the table, and they have to be willing to, um, the
That is an
negotiate.
iconic line.
What?
Like, that is for the industry. I love that.
I mean,
As just,
I don't mean. I mean, I don't want to sound pompous, or I don't want to sound like an asshole. But then, I mean, creativity can't really be quantified. It's very difficult to quantify creativity, and I think a lot of creativity is gauged by the confidence that you bring to your work and how willing you are to say that, hey. I know my work is great. I know this is, um, you know, this piece of art that I'm going to create, this piece of design that I'm going to create, deserves the amount that I'm asking from you, and you are going to give me that amount. And if you're not, all the very best. I hope you find someone who aligns with your needs better. I mean, a big part of it is also being able to say no. So, I mean, stand your ground and ask.
I think you summarized it pretty well. I guess I'll just add on to what you just said. So it really begins by just asking. A lot of times I have undersold myself. I still struggle with it to a certain degree. I'm working on it. But like I've really realized it really starts by asking, like just asking. That's like it sounds lame to even say this, that if you want a better price you have to ask, but that is like one of the biggest step you could take. Secondly, as you said, portfolio should be in place because there should be something to back it up. So either you've worked with this client already and they know your work ethic, or you have a portfolio in place and you can always kind of direct them ki, hey, this is the kind of work that I do, and based on this I am quoting what I'm quoting. And as you said, it really, you know, the kind of effort and the creative process that you are putting into it. So even though you can take an idea as to what, you know, people are charging around, that's just a basic framework for you. In the end, you know better. If you are putting 10x more efforts into it, you have all the right to ask it, even if it's a bit higher than the industry standard. And of course you have to back it up by the kind of product or service that you would give.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is your call in the end. And you know, same thing happened with me, wherein I was working on a logo, and I would like to quote what I asked them. So I said 15,000 for the logo, and this brand told me that they got their entire brand strategy made in 5K.
Mm.
To me, you know, it sounds ridiculous to me, because that designer has absolutely tremendously undersold themselves. And
Yeah.
you know, when you undersell yourself, even though it's just you, a single person talking to this one brand, you're actually representing a whole community. As you
Right.
said, you also have to think about the person. Like some thought should be there as to, you know, how it would be like for the next person who would come there. So this brand was able to tell me this key, oh, 5K mein we did entire brand strategy, but that is just absolutely ridiculous. And this person didn't think about it at all, even though sure they got the money that they wanted. Maybe they were in a bit of a situation, but whatever it is. But yeah, you should be a little mindful also while quoting. And it's not just you working, like you actually are part of a community as well, and you
Okay.
stand for a lot of designers when you quote.
Right. Right. I wanted to add one point. I hope I'm not interrupting you. The point that I wanted to add is, I saw this reel recently. Maybe you could mention the reel somewhere on the screen later, but it did suggest that India is one of those places where it has a lot of jobs, it has a lot of design jobs, but designers are severely underpaid. So I do think that the quote unquote industry standard is also something that is not, um, it is not set with a lot of consideration for what designers bring to the table. I do think that the industry standards are not accurate.
Yeah, a lot of times I don't think all brands understand how complex the creative process is. For them,
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, you know, you just have to move a few things around, and that's how you just give us options, and then we just keep on and on. But there's no way for us to explain that process, nor is there a way for them to probably imagine it. So I feel like standing your ground is the only way you can actually make them understand that what you're doing is what is the worth of what you're doing and the process you put into it. So yeah.
So breaking, like, I mean, I would always suggest that the industry standard needs to be broken, because the industry standard, again, I feel is set very arbitrarily. I feel inflation needs to catch up. I mean, sure, I mean, like, the value of things has genuinely gone up, but why are we still being paid so little? Right?
True
Why
that.
are we not being fairly compensated? Like, I know design education is not something that is cheap. Education is not cheap, period. And when it comes to compensating designers, I think when it comes to compensating, yeah, designers and artists and creatives, I think the industry needs to catch up on what they call the standard is.
Yeah, and I think the standard needs to be set by designers now. And
Yeah,
not, yeah.
yeah.
What is
And
this industry that we are talking about? These aren't designers who set the standard. It's
yeah,
mostly brands
exactly.
who are dictating it.
Yeah, and I mean, I do understand that it's very complex and there are a lot of forces at play, but I think the change somewhere has to start with the individual and with the individual asserting themselves. At least I think, I hope that is some sort of a butterfly effect, which leads to a much larger change. But let's say you start demanding for, let's say, a higher commercial, or let's say the right commercial for your work. I don't want to say a higher commercial because, right, that is again the distinction between expensive and costly. Costly is something that costs a lot of money to make. So if something is costly, it justifies the amount of money you spend on it. Versus when something is expensive, you don't really, it didn't cost them a lot of money. There's just a massive profit margin. With creatives, because it's so passion driven, with industries, because they're so passion driven, there is like um, attaching a monetary unit to that passion is very difficult. So you need to gauge what is the right amount for you, for what you are bringing to the table, and you need to be able to quote that. And
Correct.
yeah, stand your ground. I hope we covered that
Yeah.
question without meandering too much.